Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and today I decided to bring this video, which is going to be the first video of a new series I'm going to bring here to the channel. For the longest time, I've been wanting to release some sort of beginners to advanced course in React, especially because my channel is all based in React. However, I was really wondering if I was going to release it as a paid course or just as videos on YouTube, and for a very long time, I was preparing to release it as a paid course. However, I realized that it doesn't really make sense for me to release it as a paid course because I personally don't even use courses. I never used it in the past. And also, I feel like I can benefit more from releasing it for free on YouTube because I'll be able to grow more of my audience and I'll be able to provide this for free for you guys as well. So what I decided to do is I decided to release this course where I'm going to be going over everything in React right from the beginning, right from setting up the React application to working with more complex projects and more complex topics. My goal is that by the end of this course, you will be able to confidently create a React application and work in it on your own. And not only that, but also if you have any doubts, you will be able to search on the internet to solve whatever doubts you have. No one truly knows everything from a language or a framework, but if you're skilled enough and prepared and you have practiced enough on a certain topic, you can basically tell yourself that you know that because you're able to search and resolve problems on your own. And that's my goal with this course. I'm not completely sure how many videos this course will be composed of. I have a list of all the topics we're going to be going over, but keep in mind that if you guys keep suggesting me stuff that you guys want to learn throughout the way, I might change this list by the end. So the topics that we're going to be learning in this course are probably showing here in the screen right now. As I mentioned, some of them might change. I might add more stuff. I might remove some stuff. But those are the ones that I really want to teach because I feel like those are the really important ones that will set you up for the future. Throughout the course, I will also be pointing out other videos that I have made in the past because I have already made really in-depth tutorials on some of these topics. So if you're interested in checking those out as well, I'll just link to them in the video so you can go ahead and watch them as well. Now, I've been releasing videos about once or twice a week, but because I don't want to keep you guys waiting like weeks for this course to be done, I'll try to post as much as possible, probably 3+ videos a week. Also, these videos won't take that long to make. They won't be that long. So I'll try to keep them short in order for me to be able to post as much as I can. I'm really excited for this course. I really hope it is the best that I can provide for you guys. And yeah, if you have any suggestions on what you want to learn, just leave it in the comment. And for this first video, what we're going to be going over is just the basics of React, going over why we should use React, why would you want to learn React, and also I'm going to show you guys how to set up your first React application. So with that in mind, let's get into the first video of this course. Okay everyone, so the first thing I want to go over is why exactly you should learn React. Now, this is a kind of a trivial question because if you're watching these videos, you probably already know why you would want to learn React. However, you got to understand exactly why it is required for you to learn React in order to improve as a developer or a web developer more specifically. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because I remember in the beginning, I was really used to just coding websites using vanilla JavaScript or some really outdated frameworks such as jQuery. And when I started learning React, I was wondering to myself, why am I wasting time learning this when I can do all of this using some sort of outdated method? And that really stunted my growth for a bit. It definitely made it so that I took a little bit longer than usual to learn the basics of React. And for that reason, I wanted to start out by just explaining to you guys why you should actually learn React. Now, the first thing I want to say is that you will love React. I'm being honest. If this is the first framework you're learning, I'm not saying React is perfect, but I'm just saying if this is the first time you're learning a framework and you're coming from just knowing vanilla JavaScript and coding websites without using any of the available frameworks out there, I'm going to let you know that you might not like it in the beginning, but you will love it after a while. The way in which using a framework abstracts complexity in your project is really nice. I love it. As soon as I realized how much less code I had to write in order to make a complex website compared to something like using normal JavaScript, I really fell in love with using something like React. Now, like I mentioned, React is not the perfect framework at all. It is an open source library created by Facebook and maintained by a Facebook group, which constantly deals with backlash and opinions from other people on how certain things should be handled. React is constantly updating and constantly being maintained, which is really nice, and has a massive community around it. Everyone knows that React dominates the JavaScript framework/library industry, right? And the reason for it is because React, right in the beginning when it started to be created, it came up with a concept called the virtual DOM, which was pretty new at the time. You see Angular, which is another framework, copied or got inspired by this concept, but I feel like React did it in a better way and was already getting more popular by the time that Angular released its new version. Now, React changed a lot throughout the years. You might go to YouTube and watch a tutorial from 2018 and see code that is completely different from what it is right now. So it is important for you to recognize that the date in which you're watching your tutorials is really important. Now, most companies out there will be using React or some sort of alternative to React that is based on React, such as Next.js, for example. And that's, in my opinion, already a pretty good reason for you to start learning it. Because if it is a standard in the industry and you're going to be working on the industry, you better be aligned with what people are using. And you'll have a much easier time finding a job if you know something that is way more popular. A lot of the big companies out there are using React in some sort of part of their application. And it is important for you to understand that it's not only how the framework or library performs that makes it good. The community and the amount of people who embraces that project definitely plays a role in it. And React definitely wins in that specific case. Now, it's hard for me to talk specific things about why you should use React because you haven't probably used React in the past. So explaining stuff that are more technical is pretty hard. So I'm gonna be mentioning this kind of stuff throughout the course just so you guys can refer to that in the beginning. But for now, just understand that React is widely used in the world. It will make your life way easier when you start building anything which is a little bit more complicated than a medium project, and it will make your life easier in the long run. So that's why I think you should be learning React. Now, I want to go over some of the stuff that I'm expecting you to know before we get into the course. So these are the kind of stuff that I will gloss over or not explain much because it's assumed that you already know in order to start learning this course. Now, what I'm assuming is that you already know HTML and CSS. Now, I'm also assuming that you know a little bit of JavaScript. I personally didn't learn JavaScript before React. I knew the basics, like really basic stuff, but I wasn't good at it at all. So for that reason, I am assuming you know HTML, CSS, and the basics of JavaScript, because if you don't, it will make learning this course a little bit difficult. However, I will still be going over some JavaScript stuff, like some functions that we're going to be consistently using, some different methods and concepts that are important. So if this isn't you and you don't know the stuff that is required for this course, I would recommend just working a little bit before you actually start watching the videos. So now that I went over all of the stuff that I really wanted to talk about, let's start with actually working with our first piece of code. What we're going to be doing is we're just going to start by setting up a React application inside of our computer and just looking at how the project looks. So let's get into it. So let's get started on setting up our first React application. I want to start off by saying that the code for every episode in this whole course will be in the description. So if you want to go to the code for a specific episode, you can just go to the link in the description, or you go to the original repository on GitHub and just move throughout the different branches that I'm gonna create for this project or this whole course. So what we need to do in order to set up our first React application is make sure that we first have a code editor to work with. I 1,000% recommend using VS Code. It is pretty much a standard in the industry, and I've tried a bunch of editors. This one is the best one, so I would definitely recommend using it. Also, you need to make sure that you have both NPM, which is one of the most famous package manager out there. You want to have it installed. It doesn't have to be this specific version. This is just the one that I'm using. And you also need to have Node.js installed. Or Node installed, right? So you can see I have both of them installed into my computer. So those are the two things that are necessary for you to actually create your first React application. Now, in order to create your application, you need to open up a project, a folder inside of your VS Code. So what I did is I just opened over here, as you can see, I have a folder called episode 1, and I just opened it up inside of my VS Code app. And inside of the terminal over here, what I want to do is I just want to run the command npx create React app like this. Now what this does is the create React app will generate a boilerplate code for a very basic React application. And we can specify where we want to create this application by putting, for example, the name of the folder where our app will be created, right? So if I was creating, for example, a social media website, I could put over here social media website. And what would happen is it would create a React application and would also create a folder called social media website and put the React application inside of that folder. In our case, we want to create the React application inside of the folder we are already inside, which is the episode 1. So what we can do in that case is just put a dot. It doesn't matter what way you do it. You can do it both ways. I'm going to do it this way so that when I press enter, you'll see that it will start generating our application and it will generate the files inside of the folder we are currently inside. So it will start running all of these commands and it won't take a while. It actually doesn't take, it takes less than a minute, but I'll be back in a second when this is done. Okay, as you can see, it just finished everything. You'll notice it finished because at the end it will say happy hacking, and that's the signal that you have that everything was installed correctly. We're gonna clear it up and just close our terminal, and you can see we have a bunch of different folders and files over here on our left. I'm gonna go over each one of them and explain to you guys what they mean. So basically, we first have a README, which is just something for GitHub, for example. I would just ignore it for now. We also have the git ignore, which is also something for GitHub. I would also just ignore it. Then we have our package.json and our package lock.json. So this comes when you install any packages using npm. Package.json is just a JSON file which contains information about your project and also about all the dependencies that you have installed in your application. So our project, as you can see, by default, its name is episode 1 because it's the name of the folder. You can obviously change all of this. This is more for documentation purposes because, for example, if you were to create or clone this application, you can just look at all the dependencies, which are just extra packages and libraries you install in your project to then know what you need to install in your own project. So you can see we have already, with the command, installed the React library and the React DOM library together with all of the other stuff that comes with this command. Now, all of this stuff over here, they're meant to, I wouldn't worry about them for now. We will go over all of this later, but for now, let's just keep it like this. Just understand that this is mainly for documentation purposes. Then I'm also going to ignore the package lock.json because it really doesn't matter for now. And also the node modules, because most of you guys might know, this is just a folder containing all the packages and libraries you installed. So we have over here, by default in our React application, our public and our source folder. Our public folder is just containing a bunch of kind of static files, right? So we have a bunch of pictures by default, like logos that come with the boilerplate code. We also have a bunch of text files and JSON files, and also, importantly, an HTML file. Now, why do we have an HTML file over here? When we are working with a React application, we're not going to be creating HTML files. This is something that is really important to understand because React provides us with a method of creating an application which is a single page application. And what does that mean exactly? It means that our whole app will exist inside of one single HTML file, which is the index.html. So what happens is inside of this file over here, we're going to have a div, as you can see over here, a single div with an ID of root. And what React does is when you enter in the website, React will grab all the code you write, all the React code you write with JavaScript, and just put everything inside of this div. Now, why is this good? Well, there's benefits and there's negatives to it. One benefit is that you will not need to be downloading more files as you move in your application. If you just have multiple HTML files for each page of your app, you need to download that HTML file every single time you move on your app. But with React, that's different. Everything is downloaded before, and you don't need to download anything more when you're navigating, right? So this is important to understand because we're not going to be creating HTML files, but rather our whole app will exist inside of JavaScript files, which you can see over here, or TypeScript files. If you're going to use TypeScript, we're going to talk about TypeScript later on inside of this course. But this is how the source folder basically looks like. So we have a couple files over here. We have our test files, our setup tests, and we also have a report web vitals.js. We have a logo, which, like I mentioned, is just coming with the initial boilerplate code. We have an index.js file, an index.css file, a test, an app.test.js file, an app.js file, and an app.css file. Now, I want to run this application right now before I go over those files and before I do anything, so you guys can see how our app looks using the create React app command. Now, in order to run our first React app, I just need to come over here and I just need to put npm start. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to start running our application into a live server inside of our browser. The server will run on the localhost 3000, so make sure you don't have anything running on the port 3000. And every time you make any changes into your code and you save the file, it will automatically refresh and rerun your application so it shows the changes. So I'm going to press enter over here and it will start running everything. And you can see on my browser, now I am inside of the localhost 3000. This is how our project initially looks like because this is how it comes with the create React app command. But we're obviously going to make a single change into our project so we can show hello world appearing in our screen. So in order to do that, I want to come over here and I want to go over what the files are, right? So some of these files are actually unnecessary and I won't even go over them right now. And that's important for me to emphasize because if you try to understand them now, it will just waste your time because you definitely won't be using them for a while in the beginning of your journey for learning React. So I'm going to delete the setup tests over here, the report web vitals, the local.svg, the index.css, the app.test.js, and that's basically it. So I'm just going to delete them like this, and now it should be fine. Now, since we deleted the index.css and the report web vitals, if you recall, I just deleted those files, we also have to delete their import statements from the index.js. So I'm going to delete both of them and this call over here, and I'm going to save it right now. Then I also need to delete the stuff that we imported in the app.js, which is the logo. And I'm just going to delete all of this code over here because this is the code that comes with that makes our website appear like it was before. Right now you see it's just a blank page because we deleted everything. Now, what I want to explain to you guys is that when you have that HTML file over there, right? I mentioned to you guys that we have the single HTML file. Well, inside of the index.js, this is where we create a React element, a root to all of our code, and we put it inside of the element in the HTML file with the ID root. So you see what it's doing over here is it's grabbing this div over here and it's putting all of our code inside of that div. Now, what exactly is it putting inside of that div? Well, it's going to be putting this thing over here, which is known as a component. I'm going to go over components in the next video, but think about it this way. All of the code in your project will initially exist inside of this app function over here. Now, I know if this is the first time you're looking at React, you might think this looks weird. You're creating a function that returns what looks like HTML. Well, don't worry, I will go over this in the next video. But for now, if we want to display hello world inside of our project, all we have to do is just write hello world over here, save it, and if we come to our Google Chrome, you'll see it says hello world in our screen. So this is basically it for the first video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like down below and comment what you want to see next. I'm really excited for this course. I'm really excited for this course. I want to make this as valuable as possible, and I don't want to tailor this just for beginners, just for intermediate, or just for advanced. I want to make something that whenever you have any doubts, whenever you forget something, you just go back and watch it, because each video can exist not only in the context of the series, but also in the context of the topic itself. So I want to have a library of everything you might want to learn about React inside of my channel. So that's my hope for this series. I hope that you start as a beginner and you end as good as you can be. So that's basically it. Really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.